Now we're going to spend a few minutes talking about debate research. Research is the backbone of debate because it's the essential thing you have to do to prepare to debate, and it's essential to be successful at debate as well. Here are several reasons why. The first one is that in a debate round, you have constructives and rebuttals. And in the constructives, about 80% of all the words you say are actually direct quotations from your research. In the rebuttals, it'll be a little bit more of your own words, but sometimes you'll be reading quotes even then. A lot of judges anchor their decisions in the research, what it says, how it's worded precisely, whether you have support for what you're saying. And so if that's what judges care about, it's what you should care about. Also, the more research you have, the better understanding you have, and the better analytic arguments you will make. And also, the more research you do, the more you will have captured the motive of competition in order to incentivize yourself to understand more about a topic. And if you get in the habit of doing that, it will improve your ability to function as a citizen and as well as a student. So there are several specific things about debate research that I do want to cover, the nuts and bolts. For processing debate evidence, you really do want to use Microsoft Word, which is part of the Office suite, which you can easily obtain from the Missouri State's website if you go to helpdesk.edu and get software for home. This would be to install it on your actual computer. So once you've installed Microsoft Word, which is expensive outside of Missouri State and inexpensive inside, the next thing you're going to want to get is a plugin for Word, which is called Verbatim. So if you search Verbatim Debate Paperless, you're going to end up at paperlessdebate.com, and it looks kind of like this. This website is this program really is written by Aaron Hardy, a former debater who is incredibly impressive and just made this available for free. So you can download this for either Windows Word or for Word on the Mac, although it looks better on a Windows computer since there are some macros that work very nicely. And so once you have that installed, the other thing that you might want to get, but is a little more optional, is called Site Creator. This is something that you can find in the Chrome Web Store. And if you install it, you'll get this little quotation mark up here where you can turn it off and on. And what Site Creator does is whenever you load up a news story, you get a little box down in the corner like this one that has pretty much the debate citation in the order that you specify. So it can actually be a huge labor-saving tool. It's not always perfect. It's not as good with PDFs. You always have to look at what it actually does for you, but it's a super useful tool. So once you have installed Verbatim, you'll want to take a look at what that does to your Microsoft Word. This version of Microsoft Word has Verbatim installed, and you can easily tell it because between File and Home, there's now a ribbon that says Debate. And it's just got all these incredibly useful utilities across the top. Over time, you're going to want to figure out what each one of these things does. And when you first install it, or under settings here, you can actually go to administration and run a tutorial, which I'm not going to run right now, but it's a nice little tutorial that shows you exactly how it works. The real important stuff is in this box about formatting, because the formatting of evidence, you can do it with F buttons, but you can also do it with these like things. Just click on it and format it in a special way. So to format it, what you're going to have to do is do a search and then start pasting in material from that search, and then you can start manipulating that material. For the purposes of this example, I've done a search using the phrase path to citizenship, which I happen to know is a term of art for describing making it easier for immigrants to become citizens. And then I added Trump's name, which would make it most likely about the US and somewhat recent. But I put the phrase path to citizenship in quotation marks because I don't want those three words in separate places. I want them together as a phrase. And then to make my search a little bit better, I put a time limit on it that says it's 2019. You can quote older stuff in debate, but newer is at a premium. So when I did that search, not all these articles are available from the Missouri State Library, but some of them are. And so I opened this one called Putting Americans First off of the Sage link, and the article looked like this. So I started scrolling through this article, and pretty quickly I found a segment of the article that I thought was going to be good for a card. Whenever I cut a card or quotation, I'm going to want to use at least full paragraphs and never omit anything in the middle. So I could do just one paragraph, but I actually like all 4 of these paragraphs. So I'll do all of this, and then I will copy, which is Control C. And then I will paste it, which is also Control P, into my document. Now I want to keep the paragraphs intact, and so I actually have both screens open, and I know that these 3 things are one paragraph. So I can come up here and hit F3. But before I do that, I want to draw your attention to this clipboard down here. This clipboard down here, I could bring this in with like all the source formatting or merge it, but I want to keep text only, and I can set that as my default by coming over here and saying when I paste from other programs, I want to keep text only. And the reason that I do that is because a document that has cards from many sources where everyone brought their fonts in becomes big and unstable. And so I find that it's better to just paste in the actual text and then manipulate it inside the program. So this part is one paragraph. So I'm going to select in the first to last line of it and hit F3 to condense it down to one paragraph. This is one paragraph, so F3. This is one paragraph, so F3. And this is one paragraph, so F3. So now I've got all the stuff that I need. Those 4 paragraphs are in my document. Now for efficiency's sake, I have already done this once. So let me show you, I've got the card in here, and let me show you all the cool stuff that I can do to it. First thing, I'm going to go to the original and get the authors, and then the date, and then I will paste in the qualifications that are associated with this that are for migration studies. And I'm going to bring them together, and then I'm going to put the title of the article in, which I pasted in quotation marks. And then since it's from a journal, I'm going to paste the journal identifying information as well. And then I want to add my initials so that everybody knows who cut the card and I get proper credit for it on grades. And then I'm also going to want to come in and add the URL so it can easily be found again by anybody. And I'm going to take that material and I'm going to select it all, and then I'm going to hit the F3 condense and run it together like it's a paragraph. But I don't need to read all this to the judge. I just want to read certain parts of it. So I can come in and do that in a second. I'm also going to put a tagline on top of it, which is my shorthand of what my argument is. And when I do the tagline, I'm going to hit F7 on that line, because when I hit F7, it's going to show up in my navigation pane, which you'll see in a minute. Then I want to use F8, which is citation, to indicate my author name, the date, just the last 2 years, and the qualifications. And then the actual card, I don't have to read all 4 paragraphs. That would take forever. I'm just going to go through and highlight and underline the parts that I think will make this a useful and efficient quote for the judge to hear. And in this case, I'm really finding a couple of things in it that are super important. I really like that it says path to naturalization, that's citizenship. And I really like that it suggests that it will be a good source of prosperity and innovation. And I'll just put this part about how Trump is kind of the barrier and is getting in the way of that. So now that I've like highlighted this card, I'm prepared to come and put a tagline on it and say, what's my core argument? It's that a path or a path to citizenship is critical to national prosperity. So I've done one card here, and it's got my initials on it, and I'd like to take credit for it in the class. So what I want to do is save it in my portfolio, which once you've downloaded the files, you can just go to portfolios and processing, and then your own portfolio, and then I'll have something saved that says portfolio, and that's where it will be. And in that portfolio, I can then tell it to auto number things. So the fact that I used F5 means that when I put on the navigation pane, it'll be over here. So it's really easy for me to see my headings. It's really easy for me to drag these up and down to move them around. And if I ever want to count how much work I've done, I can pull this down and tell it to auto number the tags. And in this case, there's only 1, but you know, if there's like 40, that's fast. And then after I count them, I can have it denumber the tags. So I can keep a running count at the top that just sort of tells the instructor how many cards I have cut so far in this file, and they can see all of them. These will eventually get put with other cards in larger files, but the principles for trying to organize that are, you really want to see a bunch of them before you start doing that. So I encourage people in the first semester to just cut cards and then leave it to other people to kind of assemble blocks until you get a better feel for what those look like when they're efficiently organized. So again, here are the nuts and bolts of the entire process. Get the verbatim plugin for Microsoft Word. Make sure that you have a tagline for every card, which is a shorthand version of what the card says. Make sure that you only paste full paragraphs. Don't omit things from the middle. So, and don't cut the paragraph in half. Use at least full paragraphs. You can have more than one. Paste the text only. Don't bring in the outside fonts. Put at the top a citation. The citation is the author, the publication date, qualifications, the title, and I say titles because you might want both the article title and the journal title if there is a journal. The page number, well, that would be if you were doing it from print, or the URL. It helps you find it. And then something about the initials so we know that this card was cut by you. And of course, you can simplify this if you get the Site Creator plugin that I already showed you. Now, as you're doing search for these cards, there's lots of places you might look. You can definitely do open Google searches, you know, and it'll just get like news databases and that sort of thing. And you could do all of your work this semester just in news databases and it would be fine. But you can also use Google Scholar or journal databases that you can find on our library's homepage, such as EBSCOhost or Nexus, and get familiar with like finding journal articles in those. You could also use books if they were electronic, because hand typing the card would be a pain, but if they're electronic, you could like do it without having to scan it. Or you might find longer PDFs, maybe even book-length PDFs online. You can cut all of those kinds of material. And generally, books are better than journals, are better than news sources, but really any of these will be just fine for the purposes of this class. A few searching tricks to wrap this up. The first trick is recursion. When I read my first article on a topic, I become aware of phrases or specialized terms that give me new search ideas. So I will usually open up a few tabs of things on Google Chrome, and then if something gives me an idea for a new search, I'll open up a new Google Chrome window, do a search for that term, and then open up a series of tabs of articles on it. I will generally scan a lot of articles, you know, maybe like 10 or 15 of them before I actually start copying paragraphs, because it helps me get a better idea of getting my mind around it. And not every article is going to end up as a card, but you know, a lot of them could. And then I might also use terms from the topic, like immigration reform. And I might also find that there are names of people who like to talk about these issues that show up that give me good search terms. And then I can also do advanced searches. Things like a star.pdf will only give me things that are in a PDF format, which is usually better quality material. I can put some date limits on my searches, like I did with Google Scholar, where I got only more recent stuff. There's a date limit search on Google searches as well. It's just one of the optional things. And then I can also either put phrases in quotation marks or use uppercase, like the words like around, that will help me find when two words are close to each other in the article. And that really helps me sort through a lot of irrelevant stuff and kind of focus on the stuff that really matters. So ultimately, my goal is to create a portfolio that has several cards in it, about 5 of them a week, and just keep an updated count of what's in there, and then let others build files on it from a while. Of course, I do like talking to you about what it is that you found, and be happy to have conversations about that as well.